Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Here you'll get all of the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's dive into today's episode.
Oh my goodness. This is such a meaningful episode for me because I am here with Terri Leckas, who I have known for years as Terry Henniger, of course. But she is my old-time neighbor as a child growing up. And it is so fun to have her here as an incredible entrepreneur, business owner, and just wonderful, just carrier of joy. That is how I see you, Terri. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Terri. And first of all, say I'm so grateful to have you after all of these years of us knowing each other. And what a fun context to be in now. So tell the listeners who you are and anything you want to share about yourself.
Oh, Karen, thank you for having me here tonight. It's just a joy to see you and to be here on your podcast. I can't believe that we're connecting on a professional level.
I
Um,
know.
I'll introduce myself as my name is Terri Leckas. I'm the owner of Queen of Cakes, which is a custom cake shop in Edina, Minnesota. And I still can't believe that sometimes, but it's been 20 years.
Wow. I mean, and I want to say of the incredibly acclaimed cake, it's not just a cake shop. I mean, you're like an empire in the Twin Cities. And you've won a lot of awards and are a very prominent force. And I love the fact that you have so much humility for all the things that you have done, and you come with such a heart of service as well. So I feel like your personality just gets carried out in your business. So it's a wonderful honor to have you here.
Well, thank you. I feel like this is the place that God put me to do his work in the world. And his work is
Wow.
cakes. Who would have thought? And and to be honest, I didn't know that at the time. When my husband
Oh,
and I opened this shop, I didn't realize that at the time. But it became pretty apparent over the years that this is the place that God put me to be to do his work in the world. So,
that's amazing. Well, I love what you said. You alluded to this, and now I'd love to dive deeper into what you just shared as well. When you said, who knew 20 years later? I didn't know that at the time. So, will you talk a little bit about where you started? Why did you even in the first place decide to go into cakes and all of that and how that came to be?
oh gosh. Well, I guess I learned to decorate cakes in a grocery store bakery. I have no professional training. I learned on the job, but it just became a passion. It it I was good at it. It was something that I did well, and it really helped me connect with people. Um, I learned in a grocery store bakery years ago. There were these big stores that were called Holiday Plus, and they were kind of like a super Target. It was like the only place in town where you could buy a pound of hamburger, a shotgun, and a bra all in the same trip. And they had in-store bakeries. And at the time, I thought I would go to work. My husband said, sure, whatever you want, because he always said that. And I got a job in a bakery, and my job was wrapping donuts and mopping it.
Wow.
But I just loved it. It was my way to connect with the world. And I learned a lot there. I went to several other places, learned more, and just kept learning. But it became really clear that this was the way that I connected with people, was just I'm most comfortable serving people. So it started with serving cake. So that's what
Amazing.
we're doing.
So
Yeah.
don't wrapping donuts and cleaning the floors at night. And
Yeah.
it's what's fascinating to me is that most people wouldn't think about those as ways to connect with people. Can you tell us more about tell me about the connection of that to
Um,
connecting with people?
those tasks and jobs led me to working on cakes. If you wanted to work on cakes, then you had to do other things too. And that led me to working on cakes. But the connection between a customer's need or a desire, um, a customer who was looking for something it was very easy to serve that. It was very easy to have a creative idea, to come up with some way to just make it just perfect for their party, to make them feel like they were part of the design process. All of those things were really natural to me.
Hmm.
And at the time, you're just learning how to do this, but I was pretty good at talking people into what I could do. So,
So you had
I
this
think
confidence from an early age.
I guess, in certain things and other things, not at all. But um, in that I did it's like little baby steps. I guess advice for others, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's the little baby steps. One person is happy, then the next cake is easier, and the next interaction is easier. And I see that now as I train others, as the little baby steps. You have to encourage the tiny steps, even though they're really scary. Um, you got to encourage them. But that led to the next, and that led to the next, and um, that's how I built some confidence in my decorating ability and my ability to um, custom make things for people.
Wow. What's your favorite well, two questions. What's the hardest cake you've ever made? And what's your favorite?
Oh gosh, um, the hardest one was a 7-tier wedding cake that had to be delivered downtown Minneapolis to a place called the Depot. And it was a winter wedding. And we had to work with a planner that wouldn't share any information with me. She decided that the 7-tier wedding cake would be set up on a giant block of ice.
Oh my gosh.
And it had no supports in it. It's just constantly melting. And that was very nerve-wracking. As far as we know, we stayed as long as we could to make sure that it didn't fall. But yeah, that was a hard one. That was scary. Um,
Wow.
gosh, I guess my favorite ones are just I have lots of favorite, like maybe favorite design, but I love when I can connect with a bride and groom, or even just the person that comes in and just wants the birthday cake for mom. That we can really connect with what we do and how to make it special for them. So those are always my favorites. And then the customers that come back year after year for things that we know their style, we know the things that they like, and we remember names, we remember the things that they like and that they don't like, and we make one of our core values is really sharing a spirit of hospitality and joy with people who come here. And the people
Oh,
who are repeat customers, we try to really reinforce that. People are like family. Our customers are like family after a while.
that's amazing. Well, I think about how you made the most beautiful cake for my engagement party in Minnesota.
Mm,
And probably the most meaningful one for me is the one that you made for my mom on
mm,
her 90th birthday.
mm.
And yeah, that just makes me tear up when I think about it because she adored you. And speaking of, knowing your customers and you live out this hospitality and joy, and your heart of service is so, so powerful and so seen and felt by others. And I do have to say that thinking about that from a business and confidence perspective, what would you say? Just like, is that an inherent quality in yourself, or have you had to nurture it over the years?
Um, I would say I've always had a servant's heart. My life really is, I have an entrepreneur's spirit, but I have a servant's heart. You'll know because we grew up right next door to each other. I was always the kid that was making something. I was always making something, and I was also always the kid that was trying to sell something. So I'd make like artwork or pictures, and then I'd go around and knocking on doors to sell things, to try to sell them. Um, it kind of simple. And I wish I could have approached that in a more traditional way. But a lot of people, I would advise them to go to business school, and that's probably a good idea. Um, get some formal training, but like in opening our store, and I'm probably going away from the question, but in opening our store, like John and I just knew we knew how to work. We have no formal education at all, but we
Wow.
knew how to work and we knew how to serve people. We both did. He did in his job as commercial and industrial painter, and I just knew. So we were able to make those things work for us in an age where increasingly service is not something that you can find easily. So it's an easy win for us here. Um, I enjoy the challenge of teaching the art of service to people that come to work here. Um, when they come to work here, I often will tell them, you might learn how to make a buttercream frosting. You might learn how to make a rose with icing. You might learn how to bake brownies. But the thing that I really want you to learn is how to connect with people.
Wow.
And I'm hoping that along the way that, you always remember your first boss, or, I hope that I made some impressions in that somewhere along the line. I probably made a lot of impressions. Hopefully that's a good one somewhere.
What is the best compliment someone ever gave you? Thinking about specifically someone that you were teaching, one of your employees, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. Um, Christina, if you're watching, you'll remember this. You'll remember this. She was a new employee and she was learning to use some of the heavy equipment here. And she put a wrong part on a big, powerful mixer. And
Oh,
I think it threw the bowl off, or it's something like dramatic happened that could have been dangerous. And somehow, rather than blow my top or get angry, which I tend to, I just took a deep breath and I said, okay, this is how we do this. And she turned, her eyes were so big because we both knew it could have been, someone could have gotten hurt badly. And she said to me, I've never been shown such grace.
oh,
And at the time, I didn't know what that meant, but it took some time. And then I understood that um, that's what people need. We all need that. And we need that in in the workplace really bad. We really,
yes.
really, yeah. People need grace.
Wow. That's amazing, Terri.
That's the best compliment an employee ever gave me. Mm.
It's so true, isn't it? So much of the experiences many of us have had with bosses and even coworkers, when we make a mistake, that's often a legitimate big mistake, that we are met with massive criticism and reprimand. And I love that you really met that person with grace. That's amazing.
I'm surprised, but the hand of God intervenes all the time around here. I'm not surprised. So,
Well, thinking about grace, I'm thinking about grace for yourself. And what is a mistake that you've made that we can learn from? Perhaps a mistake that you made that you learned from, and what lesson you can impart to us?
oh gosh, I really sabotaged myself with this mistake. And it's a mistake I made many, many years ago. And it really sabotaged me.
Hmm.
And that mistake is I didn't finish high school.
Ah,
If I say that today to people, they say, oh, you're a business owner. You're fine. It doesn't matter. You've made your way. But not inside my heart, not inside my head. I'm
wow.
still Terri without a high school diploma.
Wow.
So, and that it didn't seem like such a big deal at the time, but as I watched my peers move on to, life, go to their high school graduation, go to their prom. As I watched
Wow.
them, I watched people go to college, as I watched them graduate from college, start, begin their careers, maybe go to graduate school. Um, that's when I realized how far back I was. And it was very hard to have confidence in conversations, and because I knew where I was, even though very few people ever held that against me, at least to my knowledge, but I held it against myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did a lot of things to try to make up for it. I started a business. I speak confidently to people. No one would guess. I'm a really good speller. Out of that, I punctuate. I'm very good at that.
That's near and dear to my heart for sure.
Punctuation. I'm good, but um, I just never could live that down inside myself.
Mm.
So I thought it was time to rectify the situation. So I'm one class away from being a high school graduate.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
congratulations. That is
thanks.
such a powerful example of the fact that it's never too late.
You can teach an old dog new tricks.
That's incredible, Terry. So
Mhm.
when is your graduation then?
Well, I have to pass algebra, which is hard. It's, like I use math all the time. You give me all the symbols and the equations, but when you tell me Jim is trying to measure walnuts for a recipe, I'm like, I'm on you, Jim. I got you. So this is how you do it. So I know I can. What am I trying to do with this? What am I trying to prove with this? I thought I was trying to prove to myself that you can get a high school diploma, but I realized that God put me in that classroom to inspire the people who are there and to reach out to the people who are trying to get a high school diploma because English isn't their first language, and they're trying to help their people back in Cambodia.
Wow.
There's the girls that call in every night while I sit in class. They're calling in, their babies are crying in the background, and they're struggling with their social studies. You know,
Wow.
there's, I'm there for a reason. So I know that, like, God put me here, God put me there too. So maybe there's a reason that I didn't finish then so that I would finish now. My only advice would be is get your high school diploma before you need cataract surgery, because it's really hard when you can't see. So don't wait till you're that old.
Excellent, excellent and unexpected advice from Terri Leckas.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's next for you.
Oh my gosh. Um, I'm recently widowed.
Mm,
I
sorry
married
about that.
very young. I met my husband when I was 16 years old, and I fell madly in love with him. And I proceeded to have 3 kids really fast. Boom, boom, boom. 3 of them by the time I was 21. So I spent all of my life raising my kids and being a wife to my husband, and I did love it. I really did love it. I paused my personal growth to do that.
Mhm.
And but it came back around, and probably the one benefit of having kids when you're that young is that you're done with it while you're still young. So, but I'm kind of on a journey of finding out who I am and what's next for me. So life is a little bit scary navigating it all by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, Me and my dog, we try to figure things out ourselves. I'm learning that there aren't a lot of big mistakes, and that there's lots of doors. There's a lot of doors.
Mm.
I'm
Say more
learning that.
about that. Say more about that.
Mm. Um, John used to call it Viporto. There's 2 ways, 2 doors to go there, 2 ways to go, and or even more. But just not being too hard on myself when I'm trying to make a decision about what to do.
Mhm.
I'd always think, this is 2022. I live in the United States of America. They don't cut heads, for God's sake. Just make a decision and go with it. So learning that there's lots of right ways. There's a lot of right ways to do things. Um, just finding out more about who I am and doing things that I choose to do. Like, as you know, I think I'll say the biggest thing that I did, the biggest thing that I'm most proud of that I ever did was that I took care of my husband until he died.
Mm,
That I literally, I saw Jesus reach down and take him.
mm,
John was gone and I know where he went.
wow.
I'm very proud of the fact that, that I was there and that I did it. Um, the next thing I'm most proud of is that I drove across country all by myself with my dog.
Yay. And that was
And
recent.
that was recent. That was last summer. It was very scary for me because, I didn't even learn how to drive till I was almost 30. I didn't have a car till I was 35. I had to ride my bike
Wow, I didn't
everywhere.
know that.
Oh, yeah, I rode my bike everywhere. Took the bus. If my kids were sick at school, I'd have to pick them up on the back of my bike. Tell them, don't throw up in my hair. I didn't have a way. And so and John drove me everywhere. He was like driving Miss Daisy. He loved to drive me. So, I mean, I drove, but we always had company. And but that was a big deal for me to step out and do that on my own. But everything I do like that makes me a little bit stronger and a little bit bolder to do the next thing. So whether it's, travel to another place, or it might be reaching out to a new friend, trying to meet a need for someone that I thought I could never do that. I don't know how to help that person or reach that person. No, there's a way. You just need to be bold and do it. So
Wow.
what's next for me? Every day is something new. Um,
What inspired the road trip? I have to ask that. What made you decide to do that?
oh, um, I needed to do something that was out of my comfort zone. Um, I went through a part of my life, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree and have the same experience, where my world became really small, very slowly, to the point that it was hard to leave the house.
Uh,
And there was panic and there was anxiety. And um, I, with the help of medicine and God, I was able to understand that you don't need to feel that way.
mm.
But when I start to feel like the world's getting small again and things are uncomfortable, that's the time to push the boundaries and take on something that you're a little bit afraid of, to build that confidence back up.
Oh, I love that advice. That is such good advice. And it's particularly interesting to me because most of us tend to want to, when we're feeling that way, the last thing that we want to do is step out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So, first of all, just kudos to you for that. And what a beautiful example. I love that. I continue to be inspired by you. I
Mhm.
Terri, I do want to dive into something because a lot of people listening have also had, many people, of course, listening have had hardship, and you particularly have had a lot of loss in your life, and in particular, your recent loss of John. What advice would you give to someone who is going through loss and maybe just feels like I'm never going to get out?
Mm, the best advice I'll give you is truth. And the truth is, God is closer than your breath.
Mm,
He never leaves you. He's there. Even when you can't feel him, he's there. You can always turn to him. He'll never, ever let you down. That's my best advice, and that's been my rock.
mm.
And it took me a long time to learn that. I'm glad that I learned it before I needed it. I'm
Uh,
doing it before I needed it, because he's never left my side. I've never wanted for anything. When I didn't know where the next cake order was going to come from, I didn't know where the next dollar was going to come from. He always provides. He always does.
well, thank you. Powerful. Well, what is something, Terri, that I haven't asked you yet that you want me to ask or that you want to share?
Oh gosh. Um, I don't know. I guess for anybody out there who's feeling like they can't do it, or they just start with small steps. Just start with something small. Um, Even before I learned to rely on Jesus, I learned this, that an object in motion stays in motion. So when you can't do the thing that's looming really heavy on you, then do something really innocuous, like um, fold the sock or move that pencil from the countertop to the drawer. Just do one thing that you can do, because once you start with the one small thing, you can get to the big thing. Just start small.
Oh, that's incredible advice. And isn't that the truth, that you build your confidence on these small steps?
Mm-hmm.
So powerful. Well, I feel like I want to keep asking you questions, Terri. I know we've got to wrap up in a little bit, but I do want to talk a little bit about your business. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned from being in business for 20 some years now?
Yep. The biggest lesson that I've learned about being a boss is you wear your own pants. You wear the pants that fit you. I came into this, like I said, I have no formal education. I don't know anything about this. I just knew how to be a mom, and I knew how to make cakes, but I don't, and I still really don't know how to be a boss. I really don't. If I, they're my,
Oh,
these
please.
people are my boss. But the best advice that I can give you is I could not lead until I could serve. I had to learn how to serve first, and I had to be myself. I watched my husband for many years was a supervisor on job sites, and he came home with fantastic stories of how he'd whip these blue collar guys into shape, and I just thought that was the way you did it. And also I don't have daughters, I have sons. So I thought life was just as easy as you just knock their heads together and it's done. And and then I came to work here, and most of my employees, the majority of them have always been women or girls, and they cry all the time. And I couldn't figure out what to do with it. I think crying. So like the skills I thought I had, those weren't
Yeah.
my pants. And when
Those
I
weren't your what?
those weren't my pants. That wasn't
Oh,
my clothes to wear. I was putting on John's clothes. I was putting on someone else's clothes. So, and I needed to find my clothes. And I found that I'm the best leader when I'm a servant. And if that means I'm washing up the dishes for them, I'm mopping the floor, what can I get for you? How can I make this go better for you, faster for you? What do you need from me? That's the best boss I can be, is giving them what they need. What do they need from me? Whether it's a day off, whether it's help to finish this cake, whether it's can you clean my area, whatever it is, that's the best boss I can be, is to be a servant leader.
that's beautiful. That's so who you are too. It's just it's such a great example of being yourself and leading from there. Well, Terri, this has been so wonderful, and I love learning even more about you. So thank you for joining us on the show today. And how can people reach you if they want to connect with you?
Well, we are Queen of Cakes, and if you want to find us on Facebook, just look for Queen of Cakes Minnesota. It's like I don't handle all the social media. That's my people. They do that.
Yes.
It's my people. You can find us on Instagram at Queen of Cakes Minnesota. We never tweet, but we're there too as Queen of Cakes Minnesota. But check out our Facebook page. We have a very nice website. You can always
Yes, you
connect
do.
there. Feel free to call if you have a question about cake decorating or life in general. I'm happy to give advice.
I love it. I love it. Everybody's going to be calling you. Hey, Terri, I want to talk to Terri. I'm here for the life advice. Well, I do want to affirm that how incredible your cakes look, but also taste. You've got the whole kit and caboodle plus the incredible heart behind it. So I know I've personally experienced that, and the reviews show that as well. And people keep coming back for more. So if you ever want a cake, go to Queen of Cakes, Minnesota, and Twin Cities, Minnesota, and order one from Terri. So thank you, Terri. Any last words for the audience?
Oh, thank you for your time, everyone. I just knowing that someone might listen to this gives me some confidence.
Yay! We're all about confidence here. All right. Well, Terri, have a wonderful rest of your day.
That's a wrap of another episode of Ignite Your Confidence. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other people find the podcast faster, and it certainly helps me. If you're interested in more tips and tools around confidence, please join me over in my Facebook group called Ignite Your Confidence with Karen Laus. Remember, you too can stand out with unshakable confidence.